Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Dave Pyburn. He is a veterinarian and Vice President of Science and Technology for the National Pork Board. Dave, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for asking me, Joe.
Antibiotics are always in the news, it seems. This has been a particularly big year with the new VFD rules. We'll come back to those in a moment. I understand, though, that USDA and the National Animal Health Monitoring System are partnering with the pork industry to take a closer look at how antibiotics are being used on swine farms. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's a project, Joe, that's just getting started this month through the USDA NAHMS, as you said. They came to us over the winter and they had developed a survey tool looking at how are antibiotics being used on the farm, how often are they being used, why are you using them, and so they asked us to have input into that survey so that we could make sure we would get the most out of it for the industry and also for the public so they could see how antibiotics are needed on the farm and why we use them as far as pig health and pig welfare.
How are the farms being selected for this survey?
They've got a list of states. It's actually the top, I believe, 17 pork producing states that they're going to be in doing this survey. And then it's any farm that has more than 1,000 pigs on it during the year. And then it's a random draw after that. So if you fit into that category where you're in those top states for pork production and you've got over 1,000 pig inventory during the year, you're in the pool to be drawn randomly by the NAHMS system.
And it's voluntary.
It's completely voluntary. All the information that the producers provide is voluntary, but we really are encouraging producers to take part in this because not only is it looking at the usage on the farm, which is something that USDA, FDA, and the public for that matter has said they want to see what's going on, but it also speaks to the stewardship. Why are you using it on the farm? And I think that's important, and that's a message that we can really only get across to the public and get across to others that haven't been on our farms, recently, for them to be able to see that there really is a reason we're using these antibiotics. It's not just because we want to. I mean, of course, they cost dollars. It's because if we don't use them, that we're going to have pig health and pig welfare suffer, and possibly food safety suffer as well.
What do they expect to find in this survey, or do they have any expectations at all?
I don't know if they have an expectation. What they are looking at, though, is we're in 2017 right now. We've had the implementation of the changes as far as human medically important antibiotics, and the fact that we cannot legally use them, and we do not use them on the farm for growth promotion. We could do that in 2016, although we had a number of producers that we know of in 2016 and even before that stopped using those antibiotics, those medically important antibiotics for growth promotion. But we're in 2017 now, that change has taken place. So what they're asking producers to do in this survey is look back into 2016. Give us a look back according to your records. What did you use? When did you use it? How much did you use it? Okay, that'll be a 2016 baseline, so when they come back again in a year or maybe two, they can go back and say, okay, now either tell us 2017 or 2018, same questions. What was your usage? Why did you use it? And let's see the effect that happened now on January 1 of 2017.
Now, I know the National Pork Board is also taking initiatives. You're working directly with FDA on the whole antibiotic issue as well. Tell us about that.
So more than a year ago, what we decided too was, look, there's going to be a measurement aspect to this change that has taken place in the industry. FDA and USDA were both being directed to look at, get us a baseline prior to January 1, what was being used, now tell us the effect of 209, 213. They had congressional leaders saying that, they had our consumers, the public, saying that as well. So we saw that coming. So well more than a year ago, we took advantage of the fact that Dr. Peter Davies up at the University of Minnesota, who's a renowned expert really on the issue of antibiotics and usage of antibiotics in agriculture, we knew he was going on sabbatical. So we made arrangements to get basically 8 months of his time through the use of checkoff dollars, producer checkoff dollars, and we asked him to start looking at what's the best way to measure this on the farm. And we don't want to just measure usage. Also show us how we can measure stewardship, show how we can show the stewardship that our producers have on the farm and why they're using the antibiotics that they do need to use. So we, through checkoff dollars, more than a year ago, got with Peter. We told him start looking at developing how we can measure this on the farm, have producers voluntarily contribute data into an analysis system so we can look at how those antibiotics are being used and how much are being used. Peter did that. He did 8 months of it. He got the project rolling in that 8 months, looking at what the variables are that he should be looking for on the farm. And then at the same time, FDA was saying, yeah, we need to continue this measurement. So FDA came out with a request for proposals for a 5-year study looking at the exact same thing across poultry, beef, and pork. Well, Dr. Davies put in a proposal to be able to measure it for the pork industry to get that 5-year funding from FDA, and he got it. Excellent. So in effect, what the producers did with checkoff dollars is get the project seeded, get it started early, and then FDA is taking over that funding now, and we're continuing on our work with Peter Davies.
And again, the criteria on which the industry will be judged, I mean, it's a lot more than just volume. Every farm is different, every herd has a different disease challenge and so forth. I mean, how do you go about finding common denominators that you can measure?
What you really need to measure is you need to measure how much are you having to use per basically what you produce. So it may be pounds of pork produced, or it may be number of pigs produced. There has to be a denominator there. That's one way of looking at it. It can't just be strictly volume, because then obviously if you have more pigs, you're going to use more potentially use more volume. Maybe you don't, if you don't have as many health issues. But so you have to have that denominator of what are you producing? You know, how many pigs do you produce? How much pork do you produce? And then there's also some calculations that Peter's looking at looking at what's the average daily dose that you have to use on your farm. So it spreads it out so it's an even type of measurement across all different sizes of farms. And it's going to still vary if you have the exact same size of farms, because some farms will get PRRS, some farms will get PED, some farms will get an influenza outbreak or mycoplasma, whatever it may be, and they're going to need to treat. For the welfare and the health of those pigs on that farm, and ultimately for the safety of the product, they're going to need to treat. So they may end up using more just because of the health challenges they have on their farm.